So it's great to see, some new faces as well. And I'm going to take a chance. So why is, Andy asked a great question there. Why is getting credit and helping with foreign nationals get credit so interesting? So now I've been working with International Autosource for almost 25 years. I did, wasn't as, it was but it was there was some hair there. But 25 years ago, I started working with International Autosource, working as a salesperson and helping individuals with their needs for credit and purchasing a vehicle. And one of the things that I found the most interesting about it was getting the opportunity to speak to so many different people and different cultures of people that are moving to the United States. Something that I didn't really know at the time because I was only 19 years old, that I didn't know at the time of people that it was actually happening, that people were moving into the US and working for these large Fortune 500 companies or Fortune 100 companies. And the fact that these big executives or high level executives were unable to actually obtain credit. And it almost kind of felt like the same things that I was going through because I was young and just trying to establish myself with credit, and establish myself with a driver's record and trying to get insurance. And I was going through the same challenges as these individuals that were high-powered executives. It didn't really seem fair for them that they had to go through that being established in your home country. And I just felt like it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun learning about the different cultures and learning about a whole new different type of business. And then as business grew and I kind of moved into different parts of the program and I started to really work with a lot of you wonderful individuals, it really became an opportunity to learn about just how great this industry is, how everybody works together, how everybody helps each other, how there's no, well, I guess you would want to say competition. Yes, there's competition amongst the organizations, but at the end of the day, we're all in it for the same goal, to make relocating to a new country as seamless as possible and as easy as possible for a family that's moving to the new country. So it's just really cool to see how everybody kind of works together and helps each other. So it's really been a great ride, and I'm hoping to be able to do it for another 25 years. Maybe 20 years, maybe I'll make it 65. But yeah, that's what I really found so interesting and so great about it. Sandy, am I good to go into the questions? Okay. So International Autosource, just to really kind of explain a little bit about, just what we are and what we do. So a USA and global expat car leasing without a US credit history. So we are able to offer foreign executives that are moving into the United States or any countries throughout the throughout the world, either the opportunity to lease or finance a vehicle or offer rental cars, because in some other foreign countries, actually leasing a car is also considered renting a car. So it's kind of the same thing. So just to kind of go into a little bit more of a detailed summary here, when you're using International Autosource, there is no requirement for a local credit history for any type of car leasing or financing. What that means is that if you're moving here for the very first time, and you have no type of credit, and you feel like that individual may be treated like they're just starting to get credit for the first time, which means much higher interest rates or higher down payments or not being approved at all, that's not the situation when it comes to International Autosource. We are able to help our individuals get approved for the same interest rates that the average Americans are paying here in the United States. So that is one thing or one problem that we can help your clients when they're relocating eliminate. The pricing that we offer is factory direct pricing. So that's pricing that we can offer directly from the manufacturer, which means that there's no market adjustments applied. So if everybody remembers, over these last few years, it's been a little different in the car industry. They've been up, they've been down, they've been oversupplied, they've been undersupplied, and pricing's been kind of all over the place. With our program, our pricing stays the same. So there's never going to be market adjustments where we're taking advantage of the market because there's a little less cars on the ground. As I was mentioning there, over 150 countries, we have the all-inclusive car rental program, which means that you can have individuals that are moving anywhere in those 150 countries. We can offer them rental car solutions, and we can customize the billing to be managed specifically by us. And however you need us to do it, for either your client to be paid or for the partner, we can direct bill it to the client. We can direct bill it to you. However you need us to do it, we can do that for you. This rate from this rental car company also includes all of the insurance. That is vital because that makes our rates about 30% less than the average corporate rate. And we do offer that on a daily, weekly, and monthly availability. Another challenge that we're seeing a lot of our expats run into, especially here in the United States with so many different changes in the auto insurance industry, is obtaining auto insurance. Very similar to credit, when you don't have any type of credit history, it translates over to the insurance market. And you need to have good credit and you need to have a good driver's record in order to get auto insurance. Unfortunately, a newly arrived person doesn't have either. So they're basically treated as if they're 17 years old again. So our program is able to help them obtain auto insurance for the same type of average driving rates that an average American pays here in the US, which is very important, again, especially in today's market. All of the clients are eligible for the subvented leasing programs without credit. So what does that basically mean? For everyone that's here in the US or that's located in the US, we all see the commercials on TV where they kind of talk about the program a little bit. And then they advertise the flash up, the advertised price. Those are the programs that our clients are eligible for. So when they say must have an over 750 credit score in order to qualify, those are the same types of programs that we're helping our individuals get approved for. In order to deliver vehicles here in the US, it can be a challenging process. We are one country, but we are 50 states, which means 50 individual little countries. They all have different rules. They all have different laws. They all have different requirements when it comes down to driving and registering a vehicle. We have a delivery coordination team that is working every day within these local states and counties that will help the individual expat with obtaining their insurance, registering their vehicle, and obtaining their U.S. driver's license. We do always suggest, this is just a little tip, we do always suggest that you should ask your client to obtain their international driver's permit before they arrive here in the U.S. And all employee levels, no matter who is relocating within that company, is allowed to lease or allowed to obtain a car through International Autosource. We typically see individuals that are moving, if they're moving for an 18-month period or longer, we typically see them lease a car. If they're moving for 17 months or less, we typically see them rent a vehicle when we kind of do the price comparisons. So when you're looking at your individual for how long they might be moving to the US, you don't really have to make that decision for them. You could just send us the referral and we'll take care of it. But that kind of is the advice that we kind of suggest when it comes down to it, because it is a question that we get pretty often. So I really just wanted to give you guys a quick summary about what we do and how we can help, and just an overall feeling about how International Autosource supports the market. And I'm just going to take the time to go through these questions. We have about 30 questions. I'm going to answer each one as detailed as I can, available for one month for as long as you'd like. And what I mentioned there before was we always suggest that if it's going to be less than 18 months, definitely go with a rental program, because that's more cost effective than taking a long-term car lease. For vehicles that they might be looking for, you just have to let us know the type of car that they might be looking for. We can never guarantee the exact model because rental car companies don't necessarily always carry the exact model. So if somebody's looking for a Mercedes E320, I can't guarantee you that our vendors will have a Mercedes E320. But they do have luxury vehicles. So they would come back with like a BMW or maybe a different level of the Mercedes. But for any type of vehicle that they might be looking for in a rental car, we can offer them a mini lease and a rental car solution for them. How companies manage long-term. So a lot of different scenarios with this. We have seen a lot of companies that are moving off of fleet arrangements. They were offering a fleet to their company, to their employees, which the fleet allowed them to kind of, they had a fleet car, they had a gas card, maintenance, everything was taken care of within that fleet. However, the biggest challenge that came with that, or that's been coming with that now, is insurance. Because now the companies are held liable, obviously, if there's any type of an auto accident, it becomes very challenging for them, as well as the increased rates when they're adding a foreign national to their actual policy. So we have, over the last several months, have added numerous corporate partners to our account that have gone two different ways when it came to changing from a fleet account. They have either signed up for a long-term rental program, which they have, if they have 10, 20 employees coming in, 50, 100, 1,000, whatever the amount of employees are that are coming in, they sign up for the long-term car rental program, and then they have access to be able to rent those cars. They sign up for an account, they take advantage of our rates, and we manage that rental car program for them. That's one way. That's one good benefit about that program, is that it's 17 months, as I mentioned. It includes insurance. Only challenge is you can't guarantee and they can't choose their car. The second solution is to allow the individuals to have a corporate lease. Now, the corporate lease, you can either do two ways. You can have the corporate lease in the corporation's name. However, you're not really solving the insurance problem, because now you're putting the corporate name and the corporate insurance. What a lot of our partners have really jumped at with us when they came to this program was the fact that the insurance moves to personal liability of the employee, and that we can get them approved, because a lot of times the companies were adding foreign executives to their fleet deal because they weren't able to get approved for financing or leasing. So now we're able to get them approved, so they can take them off of their insurance liability and put them on the personal liability of their own. So they could also offer the long-term car leasing as well. So that kind of program allows the individual to choose their vehicle. They can lease the car for 2 to 3 years, simply turn the car in at the end and pick up a new car if they'd like, or they can go back home if they were going home, whatever works out best for them. But the most important factor there was the fact that they get out of the insurance requirement, which is what we see a lot of our companies, or a lot of the corporate partners that we have now, trying to do. They don't want to be involved in that insurance. Oh, somebody touched on this. I touched on this on my slide. Is a shortage of vehicles having an effect on orders? One of the biggest benefits of our company, of International Autosource, I guess of us being International Autosource, we are partnered, or actually owned by a company called Military Autosource. Military Autosource was started back in the 1950s, and they support the U.S. military in purchasing vehicles before they rotate back home to the United States. So they deliver over 15,000 vehicles per year. And because of that, they have access to models before U.S. dealers. So no. So let me give you the short answer to that question. No, there's no issues with that for us. So we're able to obtain the vehicles that we can obtain, such as the Ford, Chrysler, Audi, Volkswagen, and Nissan, and now Toyota, Honda, Kia, and Subaru. We are able to obtain those vehicles because we're getting the first priority through the 4 franchise dealers. So there hasn't been an issue. But to the local market, you have definitely seen an issue, because the prices have gone up. MSRP, dealerships are charging MSRP or slightly above, because they understood that if you didn't buy that car, somebody else was going to, and people would be willing to pay over MSRP. So there has been, to the current marketplace, there has been issues. They have slowed down a little bit, but our program wasn't really directly affected too much. What is the most popular car? So I love this question, because it always changes. We added Toyota back in May. I can tell you that a lot of the other car manufacturers are not happy about adding Toyota. It's a neck and neck tie between the Volkswagen Tiguan and the Toyota RAV4. Everybody loves the Toyota RAV4. I don't know. Everybody loves it. Personally, I've never sat in one. I think I need to go sit in one, but everybody loves the Toyota RAV4 and the Volkswagen Tiguan. But the Volkswagen Tiguan has very good incentives on it as well. They offer 0.9% financing, which we can extend to our expats. So that could be kind of what sways the decision a little bit more for a special interest rate that Toyota just doesn't happen to offer right now. They don't offer that low rate financing because they have a product that they know is going to sell. But Volkswagen has the 0.9%, and a lot of our customers jump on that. What credit solutions do you offer? This is question number 5. So we offer financing and leasing solutions. We offer, as I mentioned, from the subvented programs from either Ford Motor Credit, Audi Leasing, Volkswagen Leasing, Chrysler Financial. We also offer financing with the M&T Bank. Currently, our interest rates that are being offered from M&T Bank are 8.54, which is extremely competitive in the marketplace for a new car loan, especially for somebody with no credit. About 2.5 years ago, that was as low as 4.9%. Unfortunately, we know the rates have gone up in the U.S. Every day, or I guess every quarter. I'm hoping for more of a rate cut. But right now, even when I see compared against the local market, 8.5% is extremely valuable, especially for someone without a U.S. credit history. However, when you look at the car manufacturers like the like the Volkswagens and the Audis, they offer rates as low as 0.9 and 3.5% to 4% on their leases. Those are the types of programs that we're extending to those individuals without a credit history. Question number 6 was, how often can employees get a new car? I can tell you, as a sales manager and a person who sells, they can get cars as many times as they like. We have no problem with that. I will never say no to someone. I will not close the door, I promise. Typically, they lease cars, whether you want to lease them for 2 or 3 years. I preferably lease every 3 years because I like to drive a new car every 3 years. So every 3 years they can get, or every 2 years, really whatever they decide. Are family members of the assignee able to get a car? Question number 7. So yes, they are, but the vehicle has to be in the name of the individual who is employed with a social security number. So if the spouse is arriving in the U.S. and they are not working, the spouse that is working has to be on that lease. No matter what, the spouse who is not working is allowed to drive their car. But yes, we can sell 2 cars to a family, even 3 or 4 cars if we needed to, if the children were driving. So as many people as they want can actually obtain vehicles, as long as the person who's working and has the employment can support the application for the credit leasing. Question number 8. Can leases be transferred to another employee? Yes, they can. So they can transfer them. Ford Motor Credit is a clean transfer. So that means when you're going to transfer a Ford vehicle from Ford Motor Credit, so I have a Ford lease and I want to transfer my Ford lease to Andy. I transfer it to Andy. Andy takes over the lease. I am free from the lease. I'm removed from the lease. However, for Volkswagen and Audi and Chrysler Financial, I also transferred my lease to Andy. I'm going to really hope that Andy's a good guy because my name is still associated to that lease. And he has to turn out, when he turns that lease in, everything is in good standing because otherwise it still comes back to me. So that's kind of a little bit difficult when it comes to leasing some of the other products. It's one area where Ford excels, but when it comes to transferring leases, and that's not just because of this program, I want to be clear about. There's a company out there called Swap-A-Lease, where if somebody's tired of leasing their car and they want somebody to take over the lease, you could just go take it over. So every bank has their own rules when it comes to this. And this is just the bank's decision, not anything to do with International Autosource or anything to do with a dealer. This is specifically the bank. Question 9. Can a car be available when the family arrives? And what do you need before? This is a great question. A rental car, yes. A rental car can be sitting there waiting for them at the airport. So that's no problem. That's not an issue at all. Only thing that we do suggest is not necessarily picking up at the airport, especially if this is going under company or corporate costs. The airport carries a service charge when you pick up from there of $150, and then there's extra monthly fees on top of that. There's typically another rental facility 1.5 miles down the road, maybe even 2 miles. Maybe it's a little bit further. You won't get hit with those charges. So if there's a way we can get the family and move everybody there, we usually have a Uber take them there or a truck somebody take them there. This way the company can save that money and not have to spend that extra money every month for a rental. When it comes to the car lease, your own personal car lease, in order to pick up a vehicle in the United States, you are required to have a social security number. So there is a timing for after you arrive. We know we have to wait for 10 days after you've arrived, then you apply for your social, then it could be 2 to 3 weeks from there, depending on where you reside. Sometimes longer, maybe sometimes less. I believe this is the reason why most companies do offer a rental car for when the individual first arrives. So this way, once your social security number arrives and you're then able to pick up your car, hopefully the two meet at the same. So if when you first arrive, you have your rental car from the company, the idea would be to have you pick up your vehicle as soon as your rental car expired. This way, they kind of, once you get your social, you're able to get your car because that's the stipulation that the bank requires. And that's usually the one that we're waiting on the longest. There are some states, though, not all of them, because remember I said before, 50 different countries. There are some states, though, that require you to have a New York state driver's license or a New Jersey state driver's license or whatever that particular state may be. In this scenario, if that driver's license is taking a little bit longer and the company car rental cannot go any further, International Autosource will help cover that rental car gap until that individual obtains their driver's license. This way, we kind of help offset those costs to the company, and we don't want the customer to have to pay those costs. So we will help with the rental car to help kind of cover that gap in between obtaining that driver's license if they're in a state that requires it. I hope that answered your question. I know that was a long-winded answer. It's a lot of detail when it comes to it. So let me just give the short answer on it. Rental car, yes, they can pick up. Vehicle, their own personal vehicle, no, not unless they already have a social security number. But the idea is for them to pick up as soon as they get that social security number. That's the idea. And that's our goal. That's what we shoot for. Question number 10. Understanding credit options to a new arrival to the USA when needing a personal credit card with a higher amount than $500 buy or rent a car and needing a new driver's license. So I kind of covered that a little bit already. I know it's going to happen because a lot of these questions also center around credit. It's going to be the same situation. So you don't necessarily have to use your credit card to buy a car. You're going to put the credit on its own lease and its own lease payments. The challenge that you might have using a credit card is when you go to rent a vehicle and you're renting it on your own, your personal credit card. You would need a card with a higher limit than that. You can use your international card if you need to, but typically the rental period for longer than a month is going to be more than $500. So if you're going to rent a car, you would need an international driver's license, international credit card. If you're going to buy or lease a vehicle, you only have to place a deposit on that vehicle before you arrive or just after you arrive. That allows you to place a deposit on the car and get that vehicle moving. And then if you're renting a car, you do not need a U.S. driver's license. You can do that with your international driver's license. And then for the driver's license, as I explained before, if you're buying the vehicle, it's all going to depend on the state. There are a lot of states in the U.S. that you do not require a U.S. driver's license. So that's a quick, easy pickup. Question number 11. I would like to learn ways to help recently arrived expats to have access to credit. I'm right here. Call me. No, that's our program. That's our program in a nutshell. We are able to help those individuals that are moving here. We help L1 visa, H1B, E2, E3, H3, J1, any type of letter in the alphabet visa. We will help those individuals when they're arriving here. And there's no situation that we haven't heard before. And even if there is something that we might not have heard before, we will work to try to build a program for them. So we know that there's, immigration gets a little crazy sometimes. And we know everybody, not everybody like us, but like the corporations, they try to find the loopholes. If someone blocks the L1 visa from coming into the U.S., okay, we'll just use the E2. We'll just go around that block and we'll use the E2 visa. We will always work to try to get those credit solutions and try to get those individuals approved. So when they did that, they blocked the L1 visa. We created a program for the E2 visa because it's the same thing, same profile, same people, just a different requirement. So the credit solutions we can offer for all individuals that are relocating to the U.S., and we can offer that financing and leasing for anybody who's moving. Question number 12. What are the tax implications of providing a lease car as opposed to a cash car allowance to secondees to the U.S.? One difference here is when you provide a car allowance, this is where you'd have to find out if they're counting that as part of the individual's salary or if it's going towards when you give cash you give it to them in their salary and it goes towards their payroll tax. I don't want to give you the wrong answer here, so I would ask a tax attorney because I'm not sure if you count it towards payroll tax, or if you count it towards like a employee benefit or something. I'm not really 100% sure. I can try to find that out for you, but also at the same time, I'll actually collect your information and I'll send you a personal email to just kind of follow that up. I do believe it's written off of payroll tax, but I'm not 100% sure. I will try to verify that for you. Somebody wrote, this would be a discovery call for me. Okay, that's great. Hopefully I say good things. How would this work for companies that have preferred vendor partnerships? Is question number 14. So our company started out that way. We have been working with all the relocation companies from the very beginning. So the vendor partnerships, and I'm assuming you mean relocation companies and moving companies, we work with them directly. Basically, what we would ask you to do is to reach out to us, let us know which partner you're working with, and then together we would reach out to that partner and just let them know that we can start working with our service. A lot of the relocation companies and moving companies, since GDPR, they have stopped sending us referrals directly because they need your permission to send us the referrals. The challenge is a lot of the people don't know that they need this program until an individual comes to them and says, I can't get a car. So until a client comes to you and says, I'm struggling for a car, you don't know to ask your relocation company. So it's kind of tighten things up a little bit. So what we would ask you to do is just reach out to me, let me know who the relo company is, and then together we would reach out to that relocation company, and then they would put us on their vendor supply list. We most likely are already working with that relocation company. They just need your approval to let them know that you can send their employees, to us. Question number 15. What happens when the assignment ends? What happens to the car? Well, the vehicle goes right back to the dealership where they picked up the car from, and then a truck picks it up and brings it to the auction, and then the leasing company sells it at auction. That's basically what happens to the vehicle. But I want to touch on that question a little bit more, because one of the things that is always concerning in the expat market is what happens if I go home early. So what happens if I sign up for a 2-year lease and I go home after 18 months? What happens if I go 36 months and I go home after 30 months? This was something that a lot of our individual expats were concerned about. So we established a program, or a benefit, I should say, called RPP, which is Repatriation Protection Plan, which means that if an individual is relocated back to their home country because their job assignment has ended and they have time left on their lease, normally they would be required to turn that lease in, pay the final payments on their lease, and then basically go back home. So if you have somebody who has a $600 car month payment and is going back home after 4 months, has 4 months left, they have $2,400 in penalties. I say penalties, but really they just have to finish out their lease. This repatriation protection plan will cover them for up to 6 months or $2,500 worth of their payments. So they would be covered for those payments should they have to go home early and have any open payments on their lease. That's something that is exclusive to International Autosource, something that we developed and something that we self-fund. Do you help? Question number 16. Do you help with fuel cards or give advice about driving in the U.S.? I apologize. We do not help with fuel cards. That's more of like a fleet program. We cannot help with that, but if you are in a fleet program and you want to talk about options on how to get out of that fleet program and consider a program that works just as efficiently and more cost effective, please, I would love to have the opportunity to talk to you about it. And can we give advice about driving in the U.S.? Yes. I visited many foreign countries. There's many countries that I've driven in, and I assure you, anybody who drives anywhere can drive here in the U.S. But I know it's intimidating. And I know it's concerning driving in the U.S. And as we started to build this program up, we definitely had a lot of customers who were having issues. They were crashing cars. We actually had 2 customers, crash into each other at a rental car facility. There was a fun phone call from one of our vendors there. But things happen. So we instituted a program for International Autosource that anybody who obtains a vehicle through our program that decides to lease or finance our program can receive up to 8 driving lessons for free. That's 8 personal driving lessons that they can receive in the US that allows them to learn the roads, feel more comfortable on the roads, and have a personal driving instructor to drive them around. Just really kind of getting familiar with the US. So we do offer that advice for driving here in the States. We did feel that that was a great benefit, and it was very helpful to our rental car companies that were dealing with a lot of issues with their cars when they were getting them returned. So yes, we can help with that, and it's something that we did for the care of our customers, because at the end of the day, we want everybody to be safe and be happy with choosing International Autosource, but most importantly, as I mentioned, be safe. How would the insurance work? So the insurance companies, we have many different insurance companies that we work with. The main company that we work with is named Poly. They're kind of like this online service that supports all of the insurance companies like Geico, Progressive, State Farm, any one of those companies. We would just ask that individual if they can to have their international driver's permit, and if they can get a letter from overseas or from their insurance company that shows they've had no claims. That's always helpful too. But we help them obtain that insurance, again, as I mentioned, for the same rates that the average Americans are paying, which unfortunately are a little bit higher than what they've been, but it is something that we can help them get insurance. We hear nightmares of customers not even able to get car insurance sometimes. So we are very, very happy to help them when they are running into this challenge. Question 19. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Oh, no. Question 18 was to talk about leasing programs in Latin America and Ireland. We do offer the long-term car rental programs in that area. So again, it's very similar to what I'm talking about with all of these services, because most of these other countries just call car leasing rental. So it's like a flip of the words. So we do offer those services in Latin America and Ireland. And talking about Ireland, I really want to go there someday. I would really love to see that. Okay, one other question. Question 19. A common question from employees moving to the U.S. on a permanent basis is about property financial credit to obtain their first home. The U.S., most of them move under an L1, and in the 2 years apply for a green card on their behalf. Yes, so that's exactly the challenge that I've been talking about. You're first arriving here in the States, you have no credit. They might even apply for a credit card and get it approval for $500 because it's almost their first card that they're getting, because they've never had any established credit here in the States. So even though they have so much buying power in their home country, they're a financial orphan in the States. One of the things, or what we always try to stress, is when you're choosing a car through International Autosource, you're not going to have to go through that pain of the 25% interest or the 50% down payment. Those are going to be things that we eliminate, and we're going to help you be able to start building your credit for the same interest rate that an American is already paying, with a fully established credit rating of 800. So that's a huge benefit and huge cost savings to that individual that's moving to the U.S. Now, it usually takes maybe about 6 to 9 months before it really starts to record that you start to see that on your credit history. So I would probably say maybe after a year and maybe a half, that you'll see some real benefit. But when they say here that, after 2 years, the mortgage companies might still also tell you that you have limited credit in order to buy a home. So they might ask you for more of a down payment. But we are getting the ball rolling by choosing a program like International Autosource. You're getting the ball rolling. You're starting to build credit history, and you're avoiding that 25% leasing rate or interest rate. You're also avoiding any kind of declines on your credit, because we're going to get you approved. One of the first things that individual expats do when they first arrive is they go out and they start applying for credit everywhere, and then that hurts their credit score because you have too many inquiries. So going with a program that's able to get you approved and then get you approved at the right interest rates is very valuable to a credit report, when you can see on there that approved by Volkswagen Financial, approved by Ford Motor Credit. So again, that's something that we can do for them, and it takes a little bit of time for them to build up that credit history. I hear your pain. I know your pain. And I understand what, from that expats point of view, where they're coming from. They can have so much buying power back home, and they come here to the U.S. and they're kind of like, yeah, that's great. You don't exist here, so I don't know what to tell you. And that's when that happens to them. That's when brokers and dealers, that's when they strike. So when somebody has no credit and they're vulnerable, that's when a dealership strikes. And they'll basically say, okay, listen, you have to start somewhere. You have to start building your credit somewhere. Take the 25% interest and just keep it for a year. Keep it for a year, maybe 2 years, and then you can refinance. They make it sound so simple. They make it sound so easy. 25% interest on a car loan is a lot when you're talking about a $30,000 car. It's not something that they have to do. They don't have to fall into that trap. They can work with programs like ours and help them get approved for those interest rates, the right interest rates. Question number 20. Are we able to engage IAS's services through our relocation management company? Yes. So kind of going back to one of those previous questions, 100%. The challenge, again, I'll remind everybody, GDPR to a lot of people, including myself, I just took my online courses for it recently. It's very confusing in a sense of what can I do, what can I not do? And whenever anything is confusing, what I've learned in this industry, it's easier to just say, I'm just not going to do it until somebody tells me I have to. So I'll just stop. Basically, that's what happened. So with sending referrals, sending things over to us, they cannot send us the referrals unless you tell them it's okay. So if you have individuals within your company that are running into credit challenges and can't obtain cars, contact your relocation company and tell them that you need to work with a program like International Autosource. Or contact me directly. Let me know who that relocation company is, and we will work together to contact them and build your program so that this way it's getting referred directly to us through the relocation company. And for rental cars, we would work through that relocation company to book your rentals and to manage all of your billing, because I know your partner, your relocation companies have to bill you a particular way to be paid. So we take care of all of that. We manage the invoice, customize the invoice as needed to ensure that you could properly file and charge your source IDs and your codes and the partners and the clients. Everything is taken care of for you. You don't have to worry about a single thing when it comes to the billing. Just paying. Next question. Does the employee have the option to buy the car when the lease is completed? Are there options for the company to pay for the lease, like in the case of expats, where they are only in the country for a 3-year period? So first answer to that question is yes. They can purchase the vehicle for what they call the residual value. The residual value is a predetermined price that's set at the time that you sign the lease. So right now, as of today, if I sign the lease, they're going to tell me what the residual value of this car, or their best guess of what this car would be worth in 3 years. So in 3 years, when I'm going to turn the lease in, I'm given the first right to buy the car for that price. So I already know what it is. So whether the market's going crazy, they can't overcharge me because I already have that locked in price on my contract. So the answer to that question is yes. Then can the company pay for the lease? Yes, they can. And there's 2 different ways that we've seen this happen. We've seen them pay the employee back, and we've seen them pay where we change the billing address on the contract to the corporate, and then or to the client, the vendor, wherever that bill needs to be sent, and we just have it sent to them, and then the lease is paid for by that individual. So you as the vendor, if it's your responsibility to pay the client's payments and then bill the partner or bill the corporate, that's fine. We would send the bill to you. You would make the payment, bill the corporate, and so on as it goes and goes. So that's not an issue at all. We can do that. Next question. Question number 22. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, yes. Question number 22. I would mainly like to understand the market practice for company support in car leasing for international assignees globally and the different regions, North and South America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. So there's all different types of programs, and really one of the best things for us to do would be to kind of have a conversation and talk about what are you doing today, what is your biggest challenge, and what is going right. I always want to know what's going right. That's usually the first question I ask. Kind of stuns people sometimes, but I want to know what is going right, because I want to make sure that we're doing that as the baseline. And then what am I going to do above and beyond that? What can I do to make sure that program is now everything's exactly as it was, and then I'm going to do much better for you as a corporate, much better for your program, much better for your employees, and much better for the company's pocket. So in that sense, just kind of as a generic question there, we can offer all different types of programs for all of those countries. all different types of billing incentives. Insurance is included with some of those programs. It's available. We can offer any type of car leasing solution that you can think of. And if it's not, we will build it. So if you can, or I can, I'll reach out to you after this meeting, or if you want to reach out to me directly, I'll be happy to really talk about your situation as it exists today. And then we'll try to see what we can do to build something better. Are there any time limits on leases? Is question number 23. Typically, the leases are 24 to 36 months. That's typically what we see. Audi and Volkswagen offer just different options. So if you wanted to go 25 months, 26 months, 27 months, you could do that as well. It could just be, however many months you want. Ford and Chrysler, they only offer 24 or 36. There's no in-betweens. And on the rental car, if you want to talk about on the rental car side of that, there's no limit. We've had customers renting vehicles for almost 3 years now. And one of the things that I would always advise, and why we try to tell everybody, make that 17-month kind of the cutoff, is because he or she have been in that vehicle for over 3 years. They basically bought the car at this point. They own that car. If they would have just considered the other options. So always, if we know the employee's going to be here for 17 months, choose the rental car option. If there's a chance that they're going to be here longer because they have a 2 or a 3 year visa, choose the car leasing option. Don't go with a rental car, because then you're basically buying a car. Question number 24, options to build credit for new permanent residents. As I mentioned, there are so many options that we can offer for financing and leasing. The biggest thing, and I can't stress it enough, is that there's going to be no challenge when it comes to obtaining that credit despite not having a credit history. That's where our expats run into trouble. They're not thinking about a car while they're overseas. While they're in their home country and getting ready to move to the US, they have a million things going on. They're trying to work at the same time. They're trying to pack up their home. They're trying to ensure that their spouse is happy, their kids are happy, and the dog is going to be okay to relocate. The last thing they're even thinking about is what are they going to do for a car? They have a car at home, and they just think that they're just going to walk into a dealership like they did in their home country. It's not going to be a problem. Now they arrive here in the US. The dog's great. He's thriving. The kids like it. Spouse is happy. New job is good. They only had 30 days rental, and they just realized they need a car. And they go to a dealership, and that's where they learn that they have no credit, and now they either won't get approved or they have to put 50% down. What do I do? I can tell you that most people will not go to their HR department and tell you about a personal problem like this. Sometimes they find it embarrassing, or sometimes they feel like it's not your problem to solve. So now you have an individual employee who can't get a car for himself or potentially his spouse. That spouse will not be happy because they won't be able to get the kids to school, get groceries, however that may go. Now they make a bad decision. They either buy a used car for cash, which is not very reliable, or they accept the terms as they are and they say, okay, I'll pay the 25% for 2 years. Not okay. Not something that you want to see them do. So for that credit solution, I can't stress enough how important it is for an individual to start to build their credit history, especially with a program that's not taking advantage of them to build it. Because building credit history, that's where the sharks are. That's where the people are that take advantage of people. And a program like ours doesn't do that. Question number 24. Who are the suppliers to assist with this? It's us. So it's International Autosource. We are able to assist with the program. And if you're asking about the car manufacturers, who they are, like which ones? So it's Ford and Lincoln, Chrysler, Dodge, and Jeep, Audi, Volkswagen, Nissan, Infiniti, Toyota, Hyundai, Honda, Kia, and Subaru. So every one of those manufacturers are available for any one of them for lease or finance. That's for the car side. For the rental cars, it's either Hertz or Avis that we have our exclusive arrangement with for the corporate leasing and long-term leasing. So any one of those two vendors is what we use. How we try to line that up is based on cost. So we're always looking at who's giving us the best cost so that we can pass through that best cost to you for your corporate to save as much money as possible. Question number 26. My top priority is interested to hear what is offered and any best practices. It's true. I mean, that's going back way back to when I first started talking. That's the thing I love the most about this, is that we all share our best practices with each other. And all of you guys within your industry always share your best practices, and you're always helping each other. And that's what's so cool about it. So as far as, learning about this program, I hope you've learned a lot so far as I've spoken about it. I'm learning new things every day about this program. It's always something interesting that you'll hear about it, or something that's changed within the auto market. But as far as the best practices, I would just say, a lot of your employees aren't going to tell you that they have a problem with their car purchase because they feel that that's personal. They're also not going to tell you because they might be embarrassed that they weren't approved for financing or leasing. In that situation, that puts them in a bad way, because now they have to make a bad decision, or a split decision, or a quick decision. And no decision made like that is ever the best decision. So if we can always stress just kind of proactively communicating about our program, it's not something that they have to use. There's no charge to talk to us. There's no charge to get information. But if proactively just telling them about a program, about International Autosource that offers financing and leasing, that helps an individual before they move or after they've moved with financing and leasing without a credit history, and helps them with auto insurance. Because 9 times out of 10, what ends up happening is they go to the dealership, they get declined, and then they find out about us because they complain potentially to the relo, and then the relo says, oh yeah, there was a company, International Autosource, you weren't approved. They're not on an approved list to send to you. Not you weren't approved, but they're not on an approved list to send to you. So that's something that proactively we have to let our relocation companies and moving companies know. It's okay to refer a program like International Autosource. It's okay to let our expats know that they can go to a program like ours to help them find a car. Once they know that that's okay, they'll start to put us on the list of services. The service is free. Might as well let an individual take advantage of as many services as possible. Not the car. The car's not free. Just the opportunity to talk about our program. And even if it's just to learn about our program, learning about buying a car, learning about the pricing of vehicles, it's educating that individual before they go out to the open market. For everybody that's on attendance here, I don't know how many of you are in the U.S. and how many of you are overseas, but the U.S. car dealerships don't have the best reputation. They're not considered the most quality kind of market or place to buy something from. They're kind of known for taking advantage of people. So if you can imagine yourself as a foreigner who's going into a new dealership, not speaking like English is potentially your second language, it's a recipe for disaster. So at the end of the day, an educated consumer would be best. It's always best for us to just at least give them their information. They are not required to order a car to hear about us. So anything you can do on that side, it would be extremely helpful for us and extremely helpful to your employee. Question 27. My top priority is provide resources for expats to establish credit. So again, I've touched on that several times. I knew that's always the hot button, because I'm glad to see that maybe some employees do come and tell you about the credit issues or the challenges that are out there. I am kind of surprised that working in this industry for 25 years, they still haven't been able to fix this. They still haven't been able to figure out a way to kind of get the credit to transfer over. Even American Express, that is an international card, has claimed that sometimes they can do it, but it doesn't happen. I've seen individuals get declined for their American Express card that they were supposed to just be given. So sometimes it just doesn't work. So again, this service is focused on truly helping that individual expat obtain a car lease or car finance without a U.S. credit history. We are also working with a bank to help those individuals eventually get credit cards too. So it's just something that we're trying to tie in with the car leasing and the financing. Question number 28. Can you touch on the best practices for setting up housing credit assistance programs for expats moving to the U.S. due to expats not having credit to purchase cars, rent apartments, and buy homes? Yeah, we kind of touched on that a few questions ago too. It's a challenge, Who's going to give you credit when you have no credit? That's really what it comes down to. And some of these places are going to be very, very difficult to get that credit history from. I know corporate housing, I don't know if you have to have credit for it, but I think most corporate housing, you're paying a monthly payment, 2,500 a month, but that's not helping you build credit. So that's not going to give you any stepping stones to obtaining credit. When you're buying a car lease, that is a very, very big benefit on your credit report because it's the second biggest purchase next to a home. And you'll see inside of your credit report approved Volkswagen credit lease, on-time payments, Ford Motor Credit lease, on-time payments, M&T Bank finance, on-time payments. So these types of things on your credit report do show that you've been approved for things, but it does take time. It will take at least a year before it starts to show as a benefit, 6 months to a year before it starts to show as a benefit on your credit report, where your score doesn't look so brand new anymore. As far as getting the mortgage, I have heard, I'm not really an expert in this, but I have heard that if an expat puts 25% down, they might get approved without credit. I don't know that definitively, though. Please speak to a mortgage person. Don't quote me on that. But one of the things that I can tell you is that getting started with a program through International Autosource with a lease and not having to overpay to get that credit, that's a nice benefit to start with as you're building that credit history. Because everywhere else, there's going to either be very, very low credit limits of either a secured credit card where you have to give money and then they give you that as a credit limit, or it's going to be declined completely. So this is the type of area to kind of start building that credit history right off the bat. Question 29. More of a discovery call and finding the best solutions. Okay, great. Well, I hope I did that. I hope I was able to give you plenty of information. I know my buzzword was credit. If somebody was counting, I don't even know how many times I might have said it. But yeah, it's really a program that is established specifically for the expat community to be able to finance and lease a car without a U.S. credit history or a local credit history when it comes down to going to overseas, and a driving history so that they can obtain insurance. This is, it's a very difficult thing for an expat to buy or lease a car. We are back to the days where credit is getting tighter. People say this credit crunch is coming, but, everybody always speculates. But it is more difficult to get approved today than it was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, everybody was getting approved, money was being handed out. We're getting back into the situation where credit is getting tightened. And that means that somebody with a 500 or 550 credit score is just not going to get approved. And that's what most people have when they first start out with their credit history. They're just starting. They're just building it. So that means it's going to be very difficult for them to get approved for that. Then that carries over to your insurance. Insurance is based on credit and based on driving. You have no driver's record and you have no credit history. They're going to overcharge you dramatically. So same situation there. It's a great benefit for them to be able to obtain insurance as well. Question 30. Assistance for leasing and purchase in Mexico and the Dominican Republic. When will the program be extended to Latin America? We have it now. So the car leasing, again, it's fancy marketing, how they flip up the word sometimes. At the end of the day, the car leasing, they call it car leasing in Mexico, or they call it car rental in Mexico, or they call it car rental in the Dominican Republic. It's still leasing. It's just their version of it. So today we offer it in 150 countries. It's available to anybody who's looking to lease a vehicle. And again, the billing can be done however you need us to do it. We can bill it directly to the employee. We can bill it directly to you, the partner, and then you bill the client. We can bill it directly to the client. And then however you want us to do it, we can do that. We can customize the billing specifically as needed. So that is available through our service. That's it. That's all 30 questions. Change in regime. Nice words, Andy. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. What we got? 3 weeks? It's going to be interesting. We don't know what's going to happen there. I know there's concerns on the immigration side if one particular person wins. I know it's not really, we're not supposed to talk politics, but, we'll see what happens. We already kind of know his playbook. We've seen it. He's been in charge of the game before. And even before those things happened with COVID, he was already slowing down immigration. So that's definitely a concern of ours. But on the flip side of it, I don't should talk a little bit about car leasing and credit. I don't know if anybody heard, but it's very difficult for an expat to get car leases without credit. I don't know if anybody heard that part. Yeah, it's as far as our program, it's really great to just work with these individuals and just help them when they're coming here to the U.S. We help foreign executives that are moving to the States. We help healthcare workers that are coming from overseas, and just to kind of see how grateful they are, because when they go through some of the challenges that they're going through, I mean, I couldn't imagine moving your entire life to another country, starting work the next day. Okay, well, I need to take a day off coming back from a vacation, and these expats are starting the next day. And somewhere along the line, they do everything that they do, and getting to be a part of that process where some of these people, it's their dream. It's their dream to actually move and live here to the U.S. and to just be a part of that it's just so fulfilling. And really, just as far as what I kind of see with the program, what I see with the future, these last several years, International Autosource has grown over and over and over. Continues to grow as we expand our program. We kind of have gone into individual leases. And lately, what's really been helping the program grow is corporations getting out of the fleet programs. A lot of corporations want out of fleet because of the insurance. Insurance companies are changing here in the U.S. They're insuring less people. They want cash up front for their insurance policies. They want they're charging a higher premium. So a lot of them have moved that. And I'm sorry, the biggest one is the company's liable. And then you have people like to sue in the United States. I don't know if anybody knows that, but it's a very, very big thing. And I can assure you, if a lawyer sees that a Fortune 100 company is associated to an accident, they're coming after that company. So if there's ways that the companies are being, can eliminate themselves from that, they're going to take it. So we've had some pretty big companies lately over these last few months that have signed on for big leases with us, and that's where we've been seeing the company grow a little bit. So that's been really, really exciting. And the other side, the immigration side, we'll see. We'll see in November. We shall see.